Greetings from NAFSA 2018. I'm Diana Carlin, Professor Emerita of Communication and the former Senior International Officer at St. Louis University. I'm also a member of NAFSA's Board of Directors. And on behalf of NAFSA, I'm pleased to introduce Her Excellency Joyce Banda, a plenary speaker at the NAFSA 2018 Annual Conference and Expo. From 2012 to 2014, Ms. Banda served as President of the Republic of Malawi. She was the first female president of Malawi and the second female president of an African nation. In 2014, Forbes magazine recognized her as one of the 40 most powerful women in the world. Prior to her career in politics, she was the founder of the Joyce Banda Foundation, which guides initiatives that assist in helping women become financially independent through business training to supporting schools and care centers for orphans. In 2016, she became a member of the United Nations Council of Women World Leaders and recently was a distinguished visiting fellow at the Center for Global Development with the Woodrow Wilson Center. Today, she continues her work to champion for the rights of women, children, and other marginalized groups in her native Malawi and throughout the world. Now please join us for this special address from Joyce Banda.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege and honor to address you today. I want to take this opportunity to congratulate NAFSA for organizing such a conference as this at a time such as this. I say this because I view education as being key to the emancipation of women and girls in Africa. Allow me, as an African woman, to share my experience and my background to make a point on what I mean by the importance of education and the stubborn link between education and the empowerment of women and girls on the continent of Africa. I was born in a small village in Zomba, in Domasi, and I was privileged that my father was in the Malawi police band. And our tradition calls for your grandmother first to name you, to give you her name, so that when she passes on, you become the matriarch of the family. You take her name, you take all she possesses when she passes on. Secondly, your grandmother, being the eldest granddaughter, she brings you up. In my case, both did not happen. Did not happen because having been born in this little clinic, established by a British nurse who came to our village to start a clinic for the first time. My mother was one of those who were privileged to give birth in a small clinic. The next day, the nurse who had come, a British white nurse who had come to establish the clinic, on her rounds asked my grandmother what was the name of this baby going to be. And my grandmother, instead of saying, tell her she would take my name because that's what tradition demands, she asked them to tell her what her name was. This lady's name was Joyce. And so my grandmother told the interpreters, tell her this child is going to be Joyce because I see her growing up and becoming an important woman who will build clinics. In the same vein of prophesying that I was going to grow up to do great things in my country, she denied me my heritage of taking her name and becoming the matriarch of my family. But the most important one is the bringing up. My father insisted that I want my daughter to come and live with me in town where I live, so because I want my daughter to go to school. They fought, they compromised in the end and agreed that I would come home to be with my grandmother every weekend. So I went to live with my father in town, and every Friday he would give me 1 shilling and 6 pence to take me home by bus to go and spend the weekend with my grandmother. So my grandmother could teach me whatever it is that she wanted to teach me to prepare me for marriage, to be a good wife. Every Friday when I went home by bus, without fail, a good friend of mine would be sitting by the roadside by the name of Chris. And Chris and me would walk into the village. She would tell me what had happened during the week. and how to tell her what had happened in town. And we shared experiences. Chrissy taught me all that I needed to do about growing up in the village. Chrissy went to the village school. I went to the urban school. Chrissy was brighter than me. I wasn't as bright as Chrissy was. I know so because Chrissy was first position every class. We went to the end of primary school. I was selected to one of the best girls' secondary schools, and so was Chrissy. But we went to different districts. I came back the next holiday. Chrissy was not by the roadside. I asked my grandmother, what happened to Chrissy? And my grandmother told me, she won't be coming to see you. She's very angry right now. Chrissy dropped out of school because the family could not raise the $6 that she required to go back to school to continue with her secondary education. So Chrissy dropped out. And I went on and ended up in the State House because I was privileged to have a father who could work, who could pay my school fees. Chrissy, who was brighter than me, is where I left her, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. And the question I have asked myself, I have been angry for the longest time about how Chrissy could not access education. Was it her fault? Why is it that she has had to pay that price? But now at this age, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I have searched and found that there are 130 million girls around the world that are not going to school, that are denied the opportunity to get education. But it is common sense that when a girl child goes to school, ends up earning her own living, getting a good job, she will get married to a fellow educated person. The children born in that household will enjoy better health, better nutrition, and they will also end up getting better education. Is it fair that girls of this world have to pay that kind of price through no fault of their own? Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I then decided that I was going to do something about the situation. I established the Joyce Banda Foundation. And to cut a long story short, I have been privileged that through establishing the Joyce Banda Foundation with the intention of providing better education for girls, I have been able to send 6,500 girls to school. And I have built schools, and the Joyce Banda Foundation runs one of the only 3 free secondary schools in my country. We have 30 orphan care centers where we feed 15,000 children every single day. I will forever be grateful to New Skin of Utah, who provide the food that we feed to our children every day. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Joyce Banda Foundation, therefore, has mobilized, supported, and benefited young women, young boys through education, youth, and women to the total of 1.3 million Malawians. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to take this opportunity to inform you, distinguished guests, that there is so much that we can do. I know that living in America, you are tempted to take life for granted. Where I come from, it's not as easy as it looks. Women will go to school, will go to high school, but they may not even be able to attain tertiary education. Now, if we are going to get leaders, it is my view that Africa will develop and develop faster if women and men work together, and if women are given the opportunity to sit at the policy formulating tables, to share in the decision making of their nations. But this will not happen if they have not gone to school. And this will not happen if they have not gone to school enough. So it's not enough to just get basic education. It's critical for women to get tertiary education. Now, I belong to a country where the total enrollment of all the universities put together is 10,000, thereabout. Therefore, women don't end up in university not because they're not bright, but there's a cutoff point where Those that get the brightest will go to college because of the lack of space. As a result, most people don't get tertiary education. I was one of those that were not privileged enough to get education. Some people, it is because of the pressure on income from their families. Some, it is because women are discriminated against. Boys get opportunities to go to school, for tertiary education, particularly in families where resources are low. I was one of those that decided that I was going to help my father to educate my siblings, and therefore decided to take a shorter course. I ended up doing basic jobs, but then knew that I was born a leader, and therefore I could do more, and therefore I should endeavor to get further education, higher education later in life. I ended up starting with online education, but I ended up getting the opportunity to go and do my master's in Canada, in Victoria, at the Royal Roads University. But I did this at a later age, and I ended up being in class with students that were half my age. These are challenges that women have to struggle with, to make choices in life. Where do I go can I go for further education? Can I afford to go for further education? Can I leave my family behind? In countries where there's also social pressure for you to remain married and to have a husband. Do I want to leave my family? These are decisions that women can make. But I think most importantly, that will be of interest to you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and might wish to intervene and to support and to help those of us who are fighting to get as many women as possible to be educated, is to see how you can assist those organizations that are working in the education sector, particularly those that are trying to empower women to get into non-traditional areas. For example, engineering, mathematics, medical doctors. I have been privileged that I have been able, through the Joyce Banda Foundation, which by the way celebrates 20 years of existence this October, to send 500 students to our universities, and 10 of those into our medical school. And so every year we raise funds and we send them to university, because tertiary education is not free. The Joyce Banda Foundation works around 5 pillars. First is the girls' income into the household, because we believe that when there's income into the household, every woman, even the most uneducated that I have met at the most remote area, will always fight to ensure that her girl child goes to school so that she doesn't end up in her situation. And for that reason, when you assist to economically empower a household through the woman, you are also providing an opportunity for that woman to send her girl child to school. The second pillar is education. We believe that when girls go to school, and particularly if they push on to go into secondary education and then go on to get into tertiary education, they marry late. They marry late, and they get married to an educated man. So there's been this talk throughout the world. There are great initiatives where people are fighting to help African nations or developing nations to avoid early marriage. But early marriage can also be avoided by ensuring that the girl child is going to school. So our pillar number 3 is maternal health. We want to fight this unnecessary death. It is not fair that you, our sisters in the West, when you become pregnant, it is a time of joy and expectation. All you are looking forward to is to have a baby, to have a child. You begin to shop around. You even know the sex of the baby. Where I come from, here, back home, it is a challenge. You don't know. You are anxious. There are no ambulances. There are no roads to the hospital. There are no adequate staff in the hospitals. And in most hospitals, there's no electricity. So the women go and end up dying. But we can avoid this unnecessary death by ensuring that we provide an opportunity for our girls to go to school longer, to stay in school for high school or tertiary. I say this because I've done research, and I have found that the majority of those women that are dying giving birth are those that are between the ages of 13 to 20, to 15, to 19. And this is the most critical time when they should be in high school. But they end up having babies early because they don't have a choice. They get married early. They can't go to secondary school. Even in a country as progressive as mine, where we have passed a law that demands that a girl child shall not get married before the age of 18. When you go into a village and find that they are breaking the law, they're still getting married, they will tell you, tell me what I do with this child between the age of 12 to 19. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, so when I got into office, I am of the view that what Africa needs most is a critical mass of African women leaders. Why? It's because that when we get into leadership, we focus more on issues that affect women and girls, social programs, education, income, health. So if we have as many women as possible in leadership, it helps our nations to develop faster. After all, isn't it a matter of common sense that we, women of the world, are the majority? That was what statistics are saying. And if we are the majority, isn't it a matter of common sense that we should be supported and empowered? In any case, when I checked last, it says that women are the ones that brought into this world the other half. Is it not a matter of common sense, therefore, that these women should also be supported and encouraged and empowered? Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, so I decided that let me be even more factual. Let me do research and support my argument with proper data and proper findings from my research. I then asked to enroll as a distinguished fellow at the Woodrow Wilson Center in the United States of America. At this juncture, allow me to pay special tribute to the government of the United States of America for the opportunity they afforded me to serve as a distinguished fellow at the Woodrow Wilson Center that is supported by the U.S. government, in order for me to do research to find out the challenges that African women get, because I am making a case that Africa shall only develop when men and women work together, but when women attain better education, tertiary education, but also gender equality. So I served there, and I found what the challenges are for women. But I served as distinguished fellow in a joint fellowship with the Center for Global Development. As I've said earlier, that women shall only become leaders when they have gone to school, and when they have gone to school enough. So I wanted to look at the whole issue of leadership, starting from the girl child. I am making a case that leaders are born. Research is showing that they are not born with full 100% leadership traits. They are only born with 30% traits. So any leader that is male or female is born with 30% traits. 70% has to be added on. And so I wanted to go into the life of a girl child at grassroots in a poor household that is born with the 30% leadership traits. How is Africa going to benefit from those talents that are God-given, that this girl child has got, if this girl child doesn't have the opportunity to go to school, when this girl child doesn't have the opportunity to go to high school, doesn't have the opportunity to go to university, how is Africa going to benefit from the leadership that she was meant to become? And so my research has made recommendations. I'm recommending that there must be political will in all our African countries to ensure that the girl child is given equal opportunity, and to ensure that the girl child is protected against harmful traditions. Because if I go into the research, I may take up all the time. But I would like to invite all of you to Google my two papers that I researched and published. But I have also written a book that I'm calling From from day one. I am making this case because Western countries and our friendly nations that are supporting third world countries come in and earmark a lot of resources for the support and the empowerment of the adolescent girl child. Now, as an African woman leader, it is too late when we start to focus on this girl child at age 11, 12. By that time, in some of our rural areas, this girl child has been denied equal access to education. This girl child has been denied equal access to better nutrition because the boy child will eat with the father. They don't mean any harm to the girl child, but that is tradition. This girl child shall have been overworked to an extent that her simple bones, weak bones, have been deformed. I am a victim myself because the doctors have told me I started carrying heavy stuff when I was 5 years old. Between 0 and 10, this girl child will have been confronted with all kinds of harmful traditions. If it is in Cameroon, she will have breast ironed at age 10 so that she doesn't become sexual. So the hot rods of iron are pressed against this little girl's chest. If it is in Ghana, it is then she's confronted with trokosh, where she is offered to the high priest in the jungle. She goes at 6 years old as payment for whatever the family may have done wrong in the community. If it is Malawi, she is cleansed. An adult man is given to this girl child to have sex with her at a very young age so that she becomes sexual and beautiful in the future. If it is Kenya, she is mutilated. So genital mutilation of the girl child is rampant in most countries, and most of that is happening between the age of 10. My argument is we need to find ways. We need to send as many girls as possible to school. We need to work together with governments to pass laws that will protect the girl child. When I was Cabinet Minister for Women and Children, I championed the passing of the law that protects the household, domestic violence bill, that was passed on 16th of April, 2006. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, so placing women in leadership, sending as many girls as possible to school is going to be key if we are going to liberate women across Africa. I would like to end by saying that I am truly grateful to the government of the United States of America that they helped me also to draw up a toolkit that allows me to come back to continue with my work in educating as many girls as possible. I have just set up a fund now to send girls with disability to school. I have also started a program within the Joyce Banda Foundation to help as many women as possible get into leadership. And I have also set up a fund that I would like to earmark young girls that are going to tertiary education, but focusing on non-traditional areas, because I believe that we too have a role to play in contributing in non-traditional fields. I also have spent my time as President of the Republic of Malawi to appoint as many women as possible, because it's going to motivate young girls, young women, to go and attend secondary education as well as university education if they believe that when I have finished and I have gotten a job, I'll be just as good as a man. I shall be appointed to any position that I want to work. If the government shall be willing to protect me and to make sure that I get equal opportunity like the men in my country. So for me, during my time, I ensured that I appoint as many women as possible to leadership positions. The first time in Malawi to have a Chief Justice of Malawi was during my time. That was female. Head of Civil Service, Solicitor General, 8 district commissioners at local government level. It is our duty, those of us who become leaders. But with this toolkit now, and with the agreement with the government of the United States, I under my J1 visa was for me to come back and implement my toolkit, and so that my country and Africa can benefit. So I'm back home, and I'm grateful for your government and all of you for the support that you provided to me. But it is my request and appeal to all those of you who can come to our help, to our rescue, and help us, help as many girls as possible attain education, because that is the only way we can allow women of Africa get to a point where they can make critical choices about their lives. I wish you all the best, and may God bless you all.